All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Spin and Backfist MMA show. It is a very special day here on the Spin and Backfist MMA show because we are joined by the GOAT, Jon Anik. Obviously, we've been giving Jon Anik praise for years. As long as the Spin and Backfist show has existed, we've been saying this guy's our favorite commentator in the sport, and we finally got him on the show. Jon, thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the intro. When Joe Rogan calls you the GOAT, everybody sort of falls in line, but I don't take that lightly and trying to earn whatever that distinction is every week. But I actually got Joe a stuffed goat for Valentine's Day. So hopefully he doesn't leave it at the broadcast table.
I love that.
Are you going to give it to him live on the broadcast?
Maybe not a bad idea. You're giving me a great thought there. I was just going to give it to him at the start of the show. I know better than to give it to him at the ceremonial weigh-in because he'll probably just throw it off to the side. But yeah, maybe I should give it to him on the air. That's a great idea.
I think the clip will get some pop, Jon. I think the people would like that a lot.
That's a great thought. We'll see what we can do.
MMA's bromance.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Go recognize go.
Yeah, go recognize.
It is obviously UFC 298 coming up. When does the prep start for you for a pay-per-view? Does it start week of? Does it start even before that? What does the prep consist of for Jon Anik?
So depending upon my schedule, it can vary, right? Like March 2nd was supposed to be Saudi Arabia leading into UFC 299 on March 9th. Now that's going to be a fight night in the States, which is a little bit more palatable in terms of getting ahead of the preparation. But it's usually 10 days out. Right now, I've had like 3 weeks off, so I'm in a pretty good place when it comes to the prep. But I voice most of the in-arena stuff about 10 days out. The weigh-in intro, when I say the sponsors and I introduce the weigh-in and Joe, that all gets voiced about 10 days out. I don't really dive into any of the show formatics until I get to Anaheim. But in terms of the fighter prep, I'm sitting with my fighter cards right now. I got all the corner men and women. All those things are on my fighter cards already. So I would say it starts 10 days out. And any window I get to prep these fighters, that's really my focus, right? Like my biggest source of anxiety is fighter preparation. It's not writing the pay-per-view open or some of the things that come my way unexpectedly during fight week. It's just making sure that the 24 or 28 athletes get as much of my time as humanly possible.
So how much it gets made of? Obviously, these big pay-per-view cards, the fighter meetings. Anyone specific that stands out that's always like a pleasure in the fighter meetings you like to chop it up with?
Well, I'll tell you, Roman Dolidze, who fought a main event a couple of weeks ago, he's the most intimidating fighter for me in a fighter meeting. I prep him like I write down my fucking questions for that guy because I don't want him looking at me like I've asked something that I should have known or that he can't necessarily answer. But I have to say, the fighter meetings doing 15 back-to-back can get a little bit arduous, but it really is one of my favorite parts of the job. And I guess the first name that came to mind when you asked was Alex Pereira, because even though our UFC light heavyweight champion doesn't speak English, he's always on time. He's always thoughtful. He's always generous with his time. And his answers are just very revealing. He's not trying to hold anything back, juxtaposed against someone like Valentina Shevchenko, who is not only modifying her answers for that room, but she's managing her energy. So she's short of wind, and it's all very calculated, and I have a lot of respect for her. But there's a lot of fighters that come in and absolutely light up the room. But I think relative to his profile, the man, at least recently, who has been the most giving has got to be Poets on Alex Pereira.
Is there anyone that's funnier than the rest? Like, obviously, we know the funniest post-fight interviews and stuff like that. But is there anyone you guys have, like, a little camaraderie with that always is cracking you up in there?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I mean, Tommy Aspinall is a really good dude, and I just remember him having a lot of comedic value when we sat down and talked to him in advance of the Sergey Pavlovich fight, and even just talking about kind of his lack of preparation, right? I mean, he only had a couple weeks and a few nicks and bruises that he was dealing with, but sometimes when the cameras aren't rolling, and even if we say we'll save something until you're walking out, some things are just off the record and won't be uttered. And I thought it was sort of cool just how Tom was talking about, I'm just going to go in there and try to knock another heavyweight out. I don't have the confidence that comes with 8 weeks of preparation, but there are a lot of characters on this roster. It's hard to, think of just one, but Tom Aspinall is a really funny guy. Jim Miller, I think, with his deadpan sense of humor as well. But that's the thing about the fight game. I don't have to tell you guys, there's a lot of different characters. And Kevin Holland, Sean Strickland, I mean, I could go on.
Yeah, Kevin Holland, it was Bobby Green they announced for the weigh-in show live in DC over the weekend.
DC couldn't believe
He
it.
was like, "Oh, Bobby Green's on the show," because Bobby's got to be somebody that's great in those meetings. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. And just even hearing him tell old school fight stories or talking about having 3 kids and buying a house for all 3 of them because I think they have different moms, I love King Green. I don't know if you guys know, he actually, I mean, we call him Bobby King Green on broadcast, but he did get an official name change. So his driver's license in the state of California says King Green.
Yeah, did he request that he still be Bobby King Green, or how did you come up with that?
So I don't know. I feel like if he didn't want to be Bobby anymore, he would certainly make that known. We honor almost every possible request. We even had a conversation with Israel Adesanya about the pronunciation of his last name because he says it a couple different ways on the audio file. He was Adesanya throughout his kickboxing career. The accurate presentation is probably closer to Adesanya, but we actually had a fighter meeting with Izzy and his fucking parents in there.
Really?
And I was able to ask his dad, and his dad said, either is fine, but you guys have been going with Adesanya, so let's just keep it moving. So those fighter meetings can take on a lot of different tones, but never a formal request from Mr. King Green for us to drop the Bobby.
So there was a formal request from Jim Miller recently to Bruce Buffer about this whole Jim fucking Miller thing. And I saw you talk to Bruce about it recently and everything. If it comes down to you and it's like, hey, John, I'd like you to call me Jim fucking Miller on commentary, are you down with that?
So I can't do that on the telecast. And unlike Bruce,
True.
I am in the business of asking for forgiveness as opposed to permission. But I will tell you guys, like at UFC 291, I didn't remember getting some directive that said we couldn't say baddest motherfucker, but we don't go out of our way to say that. So at the end of the broadcast, Rogan was like, you could say it. And I said, Justin Gaethje is now the baddest motherfucker on the planet. And one of my bosses said, hey, man, we made it the whole pay-per-view without saying motherfucker. Did you have to drop it towards the end? So I have an opportunity at the morning weigh-in, as you guys may know, when I am off camera and Jim weighs in officially. So I can say 155 pounds, the official weight for Jim fucking Miller. And I am very inclined to do that. We will talk about this in the fighter meeting with Jim. He may not want me as a poor man's Bruce Buffer to say that. I think what he really wants is Bruce Buffer, as you guys know, to say Jim fucking Miller in front of 20,000 people inside the arena. So I can assure you guys, if I have Jim's permission and my boss doesn't listen to the spinning back fist, which he actually does, but if I have Jim's permission, I can assure you guys at the official weigh-in, I'm going to drop Jim fucking Miller. And I do believe that if Bruce went to Dana and said, are you okay with Jim fucking Miller? Then he would say it. Unlike Bruce, I'm not too concerned about like being a role model necessarily or my kids hearing me say bad words, right? So I'm not too concerned with that part of it. Whereas Bruce, I will say, one of my best friends in the world, he doesn't want a bunch of kids hearing him say Jim fucking Miller. And truth be told, I don't really care about that.
I love that. Get someone's finger right on the mute button, right on the bleep button, and let's hear Bruce Buffer fucking shout it.
I love it. Honestly, John, one I've been dying to ask you about for a while, and I'm sure you've been asked about it a bunch. Obviously, the Leon Edwards call. We were lucky to have him in studio actually a few months after, and I got to ask him about you were the guy who didn't give up on him. You didn't quit on him. That's not the cloth from which he is cut. I asked him. He was very positive about the meeting that you had afterwards. I want to ask your perspective. How when you first saw him after that, when he knew what you had said, what was that meeting like, or what did you say to him, or what did he say to you?
Well, I'm getting chills when you set up, not the call, but just my first time seeing Leon thereafter, because we are now inexorably linked. And he just gave me a hug, and it was one of the greatest hugs of my life, and just said, that's not the cloth from which he is cut, right? And so obviously he appreciated that I was sort of leveling out that part of the broadcast. And I will say, when you're in a broadcast booth with Joe Rogan, who is more famous than your broadcast partner and one of the greatest human beings I've ever met, and then Daniel Cormier, Hall of Famer, 2-division champion, right? Like, I want to pick my spots, and I want to stay in my lane. I want to know my role as the play-by-play announcer. But it seemed like this moral victory narrative, first trotted out by Dean Thomas, just got trotted out there one too many times. And so I sort of, in a moment of maybe some irritability, was sort of like, yeah, but that's not this guy. Like, that's not the cloth from which he is cut. And then I look over the corner, I look up, and then the knockout happened. So better to be lucky than good, but just not unlike a lot of play-by-play guys. In that instance, I felt like the commentary maybe needed to be balanced out in that way. And we scored on that one. But I'm happy for Leon, obviously, to have one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history, and happy that us as a broadcast team, did acknowledge that he's not the quitting type who would be chasing any sort of moral victory.
Will you find yourself almost looking at other sports commentators and looking at their final call? I know last night Tony Romo got a little bit of he kind of went over Jim Nance when on the final play, but will you ever look at the final calls and be like, oh, that's great, and kind of think, oh, how can I take this NFL or NBA commentator and then bring it to life in the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean McDonough was probably my greatest inspiration and mentor as a play-by-play guy. I only worked with him for a brief amount of time, but I remember him correcting me when I said first ever, doing a sports update on his show, because first ever is redundant. It's the first, then it's just the first. But, I never think about what I'm going to say. I'm not much of a shtick guy. I mean, only one time when Demetrius Johnson was fighting, I had this word immortality in my head, and I tried to work that into the fight-ending call. But some of the best calls are just the simple ones, right? Jan Blachowicz wins, like Poland, your guy got it done. There's nothing really special about that call, but the way you inflect and cap that moment, I think, can make it special. I also am very sensitive to traffic jams, right? So I think I was deferential earlier on in my career to make sure that we weren't all talking at the same time. But as the play-by-play man, I am charged with providing the historical soundtrack to these moments in UFC history. So sometimes I just got to go. And if that means that there's a moment in which we are talking over each other, then so be it. One thing I've also learned is sometimes I got to wait a beat and not try to compete with this UFC crowd to cap a championship moment. But of course, the flip side of that is if you wait a beat, maybe you don't actually have a chance to cap that championship fight. But we got a special title fight this weekend. Volkanovski, 6th title defense, Ilia Topuria. I haven't thought for a minute about what I might say if there's a finish on either side. And I have found that the best calls sort of originate organically when you're not in your own head trying to create something special beforehand.
Honestly, I'm glad you brought up the how you said the simple calls, because one of my favorites of yours is the Dustin Poirier McGregor 2. The Lafayette, Louisiana, your guy has done it, because I thought even though it is simple, but I think it encapsulates kind of every kid out there has the dream of doing something great one day. And that thing is kind of putting whether it's from big city, small town, kind of putting your hometown on the map. And I feel like you just saying the Lafayette, Louisiana encapsulated that so perfectly of obviously McGregor's coined it as like the red penny night. He faces the biggest star in UFC history. He knocks him out in incredible fashion as a big underdog when no one thought he was going to win. I thought just the way you put it so simply, but I thought it was just perfect. And I thought that was probably your favorite call of mine. I want to ask what was maybe your favorite call that you've had besides the Leon one. That one's just obviously so incredible.
It's hard, right? Like they can terminate me without cause at any time. So when I say that my head is down and I'm really focused on the future and not thinking about great broadcasting moments, that's the truth. I mean, there might be a time where I can look back and think about some of those calls fondly. Certainly when Henry Cejudo had a big knockout early on and I said message sent, I felt like that was a pretty good natural one that came. But even when Dustin knocked out Conor, right? It's all about the inflection, right? And the surprise in my voice. It almost sounds like a radio call, like Dustin Poirier has knocked out Conor McGregor. Yep. And so sometimes it's just about the inflection. I think when Brandon Moreno for Tijuana, Glover Teixeira breaks through at 42, right? Sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, is that ageism, right? Like, but in the moment, it's just like Glover Teixeira breaks through at 42, I mean, the hardest thing for me is to not swear on the broadcast. It hasn't happened yet, except for some of those BMF title fight nights. But I mean, sort of simpling down the process and knowing that I want to be concise because I want Joe Rogan to talk as soon as humanly possible. Just making sure that we really punctuate those championship finishes, because, there's nothing better for a play-by-play guy when, like, Tom Aspinall slides into my DMs after he knocks out Sergey Pavlovich and is thankful for, the way we handled the broadcast and the fight week. We got to mention his dad just seconds before the knockout happened. So nothing better for me than when the fighters actually acknowledge the championship calls and the work that we do.
I think my personal favorite is the Masvidal Askren call. And I didn't even get to hear it in real time. I was lucky enough to be there for it. And then you go back and just one of the greatest knockouts you'll ever see. It truly is and still is. I look back at that. I'm like, that was one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen. And that
Well, Robbie,
held
how
up
about
very
this?
well.
Ready? I have an Askren stiff as a board button in my studio.
Oh, does Askren know that? Did you tell Ben you've got that on the soundboard ready to go?
You can let him know. We don't have the ensuing game bread, right? But we felt like Askren stiff as a board could be repurposed, like when there are knockouts that we're talking about on the Anik and Florian podcast or whatever. But no, I appreciate you acknowledging that. But Askren stiff as a board, I felt like was really like the meat of that call, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've said that since. I think I'm probably subconsciously mindful that stiff as a board was on the most iconic or one of the most iconic knockouts in UFC history. So I feel like if I say stiff as a board again, then maybe I'm sort of running that one back. So I do try. I mean, we all have verbal crutches, but in a perfect world, I'm not, trotting the same thing out on back-to-back pay-per-views.
When was the first time you saw an Anik compilation of kind of the almost, I would call them funny moments? Both these men are in custody battles, or the Amanda Nunes tags. Like, you say you don't plan them out. So when even you going through your mind in that moment and then looking back and seeing, because people make compilations, do you ever think back like, ah, man, I shouldn't have said that? Or do you look at that as, it's kind of funny and people kind of like me for the random tidbits that I'll sometimes throw out there? I mean, my favorite call is definitely both these men are currently in a custody battle.
Oh, man. Well, let's get into that a little bit. So there's not a day that goes by where somebody doesn't send me a message about the custody battle thing. And I have regret about the way that I delivered it, but my intentions were clear and they were good. And I would also say we're judged on every utterance over an 8-hour broadcast. So there are myriad utterances over my 12 years with the UFC that I would like to take back. But Andre Ewell and Chris Gutierrez, for both of them, their why they fight is because both men are prevented from seeing their son for different reasons. So Andre Ewell has talked about this on so many different occasions. I've signed a petition for Andre Ewell, and Chris Gutierrez had also talked about his son and the fact that he is being prevented from seeing him on the record as well. My error was sort of combining their two cases, right? And there's a lot of sensitivity when it comes to custody battles. One of the chief causes in my life is like fathers' rights, because dads just get perpetually punished in the United States of America and just aren't given the proper respect, I feel like, in a lot of these court cases. But the error for me was just in that moment trying to tie those two cases together. Thankfully, after the fight, Andre Ewell came to my defense, and my bosses really didn't even know about this until months later, which I think is a good thing. But Andre Ewell was like, hey, man, his intentions were good. Like, he just didn't say it the right way. And so, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of young fans who are like, dude, that was fucking hysterical. And it's like, bro, I wasn't really trying to be funny.
Yeah, I love the Jon Anik laugh compilations. Just when people will make you laugh on the broadcast, people love it.
Well, Robbie, it's my real laugh, right? Because me. A lot of people think I'm fabricating some sort of on-air laugh. But no, there's nothing better like when my kids can get that deep belly laugh, right? Because I think a lot of parents, it's like, how many fucking fake laughs do you want when you throw non-funny shit my way? Like my eldest daughter, God love her, but it's like, how many token laughs do you want before you get an actual real one, So, yeah, man, we have a lot of fun, and I got a lot of comedic broadcast partners. Got Michael Bisping with me and Joe Rogan this weekend. Dude's funny as fuck.
Yeah, you guys don't always get to do a commentary card together, obviously, too. He's filling in for DC this weekend, so that's nice, too, to change up the team a little bit, give you a new vibe.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I am on the record as saying if it were up to me, I would have the same broadcast booth for all 25 shows a year that I call. And I actually even enjoy at times a 2-man booth, because I think the nature of mixed martial arts is such that the action happens so quickly. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a navigation in a 3- and 4-man booth with our coach analyst Dean Thomas as well. But yes, Michael Bisping just adds a totally different flair and flavor to the broadcast booth. Absolutely deserves the pay-per-view chance that he's getting. I think the last time we did a pay-per-view was UFC 286, and it was me, Bisping, and Daniel Cormier. But I can only think of 1 or 2 occasions in which Bisping and Rogan and I have had a chance to share that space. So, yeah. few guys can make me like deep belly laugh like Michael Bisping on and off the air. So we're excited to have the one-eyed count in the booth with us this weekend.
So on the main event this weekend, have you gotten to see a lot of the we'll call it brash talk of the challenger Ilia Topuria? He's already got the champion in his bio. Yep. He's already not allowing Max Holloway and other contenders to get their title shot on him, the belt that he hasn't won yet. What do you think about all this? Have you seen it?
So this is just a man of conviction. He has championship medal. He has all the skills in mixed martial arts. And I truly believe if he does not beat Alexander Volkanovski this weekend, he will eventually be a UFC featherweight champion at some point in time. I think a lot of what he says comes from just a confident place. I mean, his coaches are unheralded. They are just working in silence all the time, rounding out his mixed martial arts skills. And when he suggests that he doesn't want to give maybe an old guard type like Max Holloway a title fight or Brian Ortega, part of it is because he knocks them for their inactivity, right? Like Ilia Topuria is not at all afraid to say that Brian Ortega might be an easier fight for him than, say, Movsar Evloev, right? Topuria and Movsar Evloev, and Movsar is essentially the boogeyman of this division right now. Those guys were booked at one point in time in January of 2022. So I do think part of what Topuria is saying is rooted in like a meritocracy, wants to fight the most dangerous guys. And if that means it's Movsar Evloev, the guy who has been fighting actively and winning, then so be it. Certainly, if the UFC wants him to fight Max Holloway or Brian Ortega, he's going to sign on the dotted line. But I don't think that comment in particular is as brash as much as it is him wanting to fight the guys who have been the most active. But I really think that it's rooted in confidence more than anything else. And I got to tell you guys, man, I sat down with this dude in December, and I'm sure you guys know, but he's like a real life gangster.
Yeah.
Everything is so thoughtful, and he's not afraid to come out and say like, oh, I think it's a terrible time for Volkanovski to be fighting me after the knockout loss last year. A lot of fighters wouldn't want to engage in that, wouldn't want to provide bulletin board material. He doesn't care.
He's got a little dapper Don in him. He always dressed sharp. He looks good. Even I love he's got the quote, his girlfriend said one of them's got to die. It's not going to be my guy. She's all in too.
Yeah.
I love all that. That was on Ariel's show. That was great.
People are saying it's shades of McGregor before he fought Aldo at 194. Obviously less eyes on him maybe, but just in terms of the confidence, the way he's carrying himself, I'm a Volk guy, but it's hard to deny.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a parallel to be drawn. I think a lot of people are reaching, though, when they look at either the Makhachev result as maybe a harbinger of things to come, or even Alexander Volkanovski's age, right? He's 35. He'll be 36 in September. Certainly, he's had a breakneck pace as far as his UFC schedule is concerned, but it's not as though he had all these MMA miles when he came to the UFC. So I do believe Volkanovski still could have a good 3 or 4 prime years. Now, that might not be the majority opinion, but if Ilia Topuria beats him this weekend, he's beating, in my mind, a prime Alexander Volkanovski. Yeah. And yeah, I do think the McGregor comparison is sort of interesting because the confidence and just maybe knowing something that not a lot of people out there do, right? Like certainly the sharp analytical minds knew how layered a striker Conor McGregor was at that time and a master of distance management and all of that, and thought he was fully capable of knocking out Jose Aldo, perhaps not in 13 seconds. But when you hear even guys like Sean O'Malley get asked about Ilia Topuria and they talk just, man, in these glowing terms, like, gosh, he's so good everywhere. And he's certainly not getting worse in these months leading up to this fight. He's getting better. So health is wealth. But singularly, I know much has been made of UFC 299 and UFC 300. This is one of the biggest, baddest, most consequential fights of the year.
Absolutely. The whole card. This whole card's crazy. You got Whitaker, Costa, you got Jeff Neely and Gary, Merab and Cejudo. The fact that Merab and Cejudo is like the 4th fight down on the card is crazy. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to your call, obviously, with Bisping and Rogan. Looking forward to the gifting of the GOAT. Hopefully we'll see a picture of that on social media at some point. And we really appreciate you for giving us the time joining the show.
Thank you guys for having me. And I know we have a couple of programs on the Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel. I know a couple of you guys are set to be featured on Remember the Show with Bilal Muhammad and my twin brother at some point in time, but overdue to have all of you guys. So maybe we go 5 wide on the Anik and Florian podcast one week. Yeah. I appreciate all the work you guys have done. You know, I've been following and admiring from afar. So thank you for having me during this big week, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Of course. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you guys.
Love to. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.